Hi, this is Tom from Rockland Web Design. Several weeks ago I put out a small video talking about the 3 most important aspects of building a viable web presence for your small business. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about one of those aspects, and that has to do with adding content to your website or your blog. Now before I go into that, let's first talk about those 3 aspects just as a recap. Those 3 aspects were 1, content. And that has to do with content for your website and content for your blog. All right, we'll talk about why in a little bit. 2 has to do with your social media. You should obviously have social media to be able to deliver those messages out to your audience, at least in your local area. And 3 is your newsletter. All right, and that's your email newsletter that you can send out to hopefully your raving fans, the people that really are crazy about your business, and keep them up to date on various things. Okay, so those are the main 3 things, but what I'm going to talk about today is only the first one. We'll get to the other 2 over the coming weeks. Your website and your blog. Now, if you're watching this, you've probably noticed that most of the people that come to your website, if you look at your Google Analytics, your statistics, they probably show up for about a half a minute. They get your phone number, maybe they'll fill out the contact form, and they're gone. They'll call you, they'll say, hey, I saw you on the web, etc., but they don't really engage with your website that much. Now, depending upon the business that you're in, that might not matter. It might just be where you just want to get people to pick up the phone and start dialing, and that's fine. But do you want to retain business? Do you want those people to come back to get more services from you, more products from you over and over again? Repeat business. Well, the way that you can do that is to put interesting content on your website and blog so that they will continually return for more advice. As an example, let's say we have a pest control company. All right, we work with a local company called Dana Pest Control and Dana Canine Scent Detection Services. And every week they put out advice on their website and on their social media, Facebook, Twitter, as well as sometimes on a newsletter. They will send out do-it-yourself tips to help you be protected from, let's say, wasps during the summer, from rodents during the winter, and how companies can protect themselves from having certain, let's say, pests, bed bugs, and other sort of small pests coming into an establishment on an ongoing basis. What to look for, all right? So when somebody goes and looks for a pest control company or some advice on pest control, Dana Canine, if their website shows up, or if Dana Pest Control's website shows up in a Google search, they're going to go to it, and off the bat, they're not going to necessarily just see the phone number. They're going to see advice on how they can handle their own situations without even calling Dana Pest Control. Have you ever seen Miracle on 34th Street? There's a great scene in it where Kris Kringle, who's playing the lead role, he's Santa Claus, he's in Macy's, and there's a kid on his lap and says, hey, I want this big toy and everything like that. And Kris Kringle says, you know what, we don't have that, but I believe over at, I think I'm getting the right department store, I think over at Gimbel's, this is available, or over at Sears, this particular product is available. Well, the mother came over and she was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that you did this. We're going to shop here all the time. So the point here is that put content on your website that is compelling to your audience, not necessarily to get them to pick up the phone and start dialing right away. Become that trusted expert. Become that resource that you are going to ultimately want them to come back, kind of like that attraction factor. And eventually, as time goes on, the moment that they have a problem, it's like, you know, as an example, oh geez, there's bees up in the nest here, who do I call? Dana Pest Control. So, you know, that's an example. Now, where can you get this material? Because you can't just sit down all the time and write ad nauseum. You have a business to run. Here's a couple of tips. Most likely, if you have a Windows or a Mac computer, you have a bunch of these things called documents, all right? If you look into your documents, you will see a treasure trove of material that you can easily copy and paste into your website if you have a content management system or a WordPress site or even a blog. So, examples of that: brochures, okay? White papers. If you're involved in your particular industry, you're probably going to likely have a bunch of white papers from various individuals. Now you have to make sure that they're not copyright protected. Maybe get some, check with the person that wrote the material, ask if it's okay, give attribution, that helps. What else? Your emails. Treasure trove. How much time during the day do you spend on emails on a consistent basis? There was some study that was done once that most executives, they spend over 20% of their day on emails. I don't have an exact figure, but 80% of all statistics are made up at the moment. Other things that you can look for: PowerPoint presentations. All right. Not necessarily as valid, but Excel spreadsheets with some data. And finally, if worse comes to worse and you don't have any of this, how about doing a little research? Spend about half an hour each week looking at various articles related to your industry and rewrite them, or at least comment on them and put a link on that on your website to that particular article. So in other words, sit down and do some writing. All right? So there's a whole bunch of different things that you can put on your website, and it doesn't take a lot of time. It just takes a committed effort to continually update your web presence on a consistent basis. And the net result is, one, you're going to have a nice filled up website that sets you up as an authority for your industry, and two, your customers are going to love you, and they're going to stay on your website longer, and they are ultimately going to pick up the phone and start dialing. Or they're going to fill out a contact form to talk with you. Or they might even buy a product or service. But the bottom line is, when they call you, they're going to feel much more confident that you are an expert in your industry, because you took the time and care to make sure that they are informed about their purchasing decisions. So that's it for now. Just remember, always update your website with content, material that's important to your target audience. And over the next few weeks, we'll talk about the other two aspects, which is social media and the newsletter. And if you stick around for more, we'll have more of these series, and thanks for tuning in. Take care.